and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz, and today I am joined by a few gentlemen as we talk about our Seahawks heading into free agency. We've got Adam Emmert, we've got Clinton Bonner, and we've got Mr. Phil Leidick. And Phil, I think you're going to be the one running the show tonight because this show was a little bit your idea, and I think you have a little bit of a plan for us as we go forward.
I'd like to say I have a plan. Yes, planning is what today has been all about. Met with the high school soccer coaches. We're getting ready for the fall season, trying to plan. And the Seahawks, we have some things to plan for because just next week it is legal tampering. Whatever, we look
legal.
Forward to.
It's legal.
It's legal to tamper, and which means lots of free agency questions, and then how they address free agency will point toward what needs to happen in the draft. Quickly on strategy, guys, because we're going to talk about position groups. Do you think we should try to have our major holes stuffed so that then when we just let the draft come to us and take best players? Or do you say, let's leave some holes in there because we're just going to hope the draft comes our way and just plan on using a draft pick in some of these major holes? Brandon, you're nodding your head. Go first. What's your strategy there?
I'm still chuckling at stuffing the major holes. So I feel like you were setting us up for that, Phil.
I apologize, Brandon. I didn't intend to stuff you with a difficult, tricky giggle time. But so you don't want to answer.
Well, no,
never mind.
I will answer. No,
Brandon,
come on, Brandon.
I will answer.
Come on, Brandon.
And because I do, I think it's an important way to strategize because I think you want to set yourself up for the draft. And I kind of have this feeling every year is that you want to have all of the major items, positions,
not holes, items,
places on your team that need filled, have those full going into the draft, and then you can pick best player available. And that's just a good strategy going into the draft. But I think one of the things we're going to realize going through this is that there may be a lot of holes to fill.
Okay. And Phil also wants to know what Adam thinks about this strategy. What's ideal heading into the draft, Adam?
Well, I think you have to be flexible. And I think that there are certain position groups that you may not fill before the draft because let's say we're talking about interior offensive linemen. Supposedly this draft is very deep in offensive linemen. So you have a whole tier of guys where you're like, yep, they can play and we can plug them in. And no matter what, we're going to get one of those 7 dudes, right? Whatever it is. And so maybe you don't go as aggressively after a free agent at that particular position. So one of the holes I would very much like to see filled is the giant one left by Leo Williams not having been re-signed yet. That would be a massive priority. And it sounds like it is for John and the Hawks too.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end, what we have when we talk about cupboards. There's whole plethora of holes potentially. Clinton, heading into the draft, what would you say is ideal that we should shoot for? What kind of strategy would you put in play?
There's certain positions where I am okay with us being like draft dependent. There's a couple. There's a few. I mean, like literally, like you want some coverage. There's some positions where we don't have a dude there. So,
yeah.
I mean, literally, we don't have.
We'll get there.
We're going to go through it, so I don't want to jump it here. But the draft is decently deep in a few positions. In positions where I don't think going young is terribly a bad idea.
Yeah.
So it's just I think it's okay. I think that but the thing I will say is looking back at the roster right now. With like some of those big names just came off the roster, specifically on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Not a very strong, doesn't feel like a strong roster on paper right now. So I'm excited to get into this exercise.
So let's find out. We're going to talk about you walk into your pantry, you're going to open the cupboards. You have different cupboards where different things should be, whether it is food items in one case. In this case, it is talent, players that we have contracted going into the year. So we're going to go through different position groups. We're not doing special teams because, everybody has their opinions and I don't know how much they matter. I get all worked up about special teams and whatever. But we're not talking, but we're going to try to get through everything else.
We can hit on it real quick. We've got Nick Bellore still on the roster. We've got Jason Myers, and we've got our longtime punter. So
Yep,
I feel
wrapped up. We're good.
The cupboard's full there.
Yep.
Is Nick Bellore really going to be on the roster, though? If we're going to poke at that a little bit,
we'll get to that.
If you heard John Schneider on Thursday in his interview, he sounds he's like he wants to be done cutting dudes.
Okay,
that's pretty awesome.
Sure.
Full pantry of special teamers, according to Brandon, in that particular cupboard. So let's consider these cupboards. I'm just going to kind of say 0 to 5 when we talk about the position groups, and we're going to do ABC, at least initially. We'll start with Adam, get him the first shot because the letters make sense to me. We're going to start. We'll go right to wide receiver, where we have Metcalf and Lockett and Derek Young for 2 years. We have JSN for 3 or 4 if we do the 5th option, Bobo for 3, and Eskridge for 1 more year. Your assessment, how does the wide receiver cupboard look 0 to 5? And any thoughts, Adam?
0 to 5. So 5 being the highest, yeah?
Yes, full.
Okay, 4.7.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, well, okay. I'm going to give it a 4 because, it's not the absolute best wide receiver room in all of football. It's right up there. Yeah. Depending on how you rank it. It's a very strong position group, obviously. DK's the man. I don't think they're getting rid of Tyler anytime soon. They're going to restructure if they do anything there. And, JSN, hopefully a player on the rise. So you like that group. You think about Bobo. You mix him in there, a little bit more Bobo. I feel good there.
Yeah, and listeners, throw in your comments as we go through these groups, and Brandon might toss them up on the screen. Speaking of Brandon, you're up next. What do you think of the cupboard as you open the wide receiver door?
I'm thinking of it more as in relation to the rest of the team. And so in that respect, I would put it at a 5 because you've got there aren't spots to really address going into free agency, going into the draft. It's kind of a place where, if you've taken care of all the rest, then you can draft for need or for want at some point in the draft.
And someone has hurled the holy hand grenade into our show, the trade DK hand grenade. Boom! I hope it blew up and didn't hurt anybody.
I think it's written in that voice of what do you call that with the SpongeBob and the
that voice.
Oh, I don't know. That looks like Cam Newton typing right there.
The number thou shalt count to is 3. I don't know.
Tis a joke from HHG there. That's
okay. Clinton, what do you got in the wide receiver cupboard?
Well, speaking of jokes, Dave Chappelle, the genius that he is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. It's a 5. It's a 5. This is, and here's the reason why right on screen too, from RJ Taylor, Mo Bobo, right? So one of the reasons that's a 5. It's pitches into the top 5 of the NFL wide receiver rooms. I'm still interested, as we talked about, to see what we do with Tyler Lockett. I ultimately think we will keep him, but I'm open to alternatives to see what we would do with the roster with the money. It's a 5 right now, though. It's a solid. That's a great group, man. So yeah. 5.
And with their choices, Adam, it comes back around. We got a 4.7.
We averaged out.
There put a 4. We got 2 5s. We got a 4.7.
Still
Adam
right.
says the cupboard's full. It's just that some of the products they're like Safeway brand. I'd like to upgrade that to top brand, but I would say the cupboard is full. It's just not everything is top end. That's kind of what you meant by.
I love your analogy with this about the cupboard, right? This felt very preppery to me, and I appreciate that very much. So in the prepper mindset, like, it's not so much that it's a Safeway brand. Like, we could all live on Safeway brand. That's fine. Yeah. It's more that, like with Tyler, you're getting closer to the end of the Best Buy date. Yeah. Like that's kind of what we're looking at here. And that would maybe be the only knock. I just don't know that you get rid of DK, if the Twitterista thinks that you should trade him. That seems insane.
Okay. Well, Clinton, how about we start with you on the tackles? Offensive tackle. We have Cross and Lucas locked up for 2 years, Stone Forsythe for 1 year, and that's it. Offensive tackles. What would you say about our cupboards, Clinton, 0 to 5?
Again, grading against the curve, which is our own curve, our own team and other areas. I'll give it a 3. Two young rookies. So, becoming third year guys, first contract guys in their third year. Look, if Lucas is healthy, this pitch is quite a bit higher still, even with there's not a lot of depth there, but show me an NFL team that has 3 or 4 tackles deep. That they don't either. So it's not like, oh yeah, we have, we have a 7th rounder from Florida. No, it doesn't matter. Like, you got your 2 dudes, they anchor it. When healthy with Lucas, you have 2 above average, 2 very good tackles. Cross will be very interesting year 3. Can he take that step forward? Is this offense good for him? The dancing bear type, is that what Grubb's going to want and get him moving and use some of those more athletic traits? We shall see.
Should be.
But right now, dead smack down the middle with a 3. Wish it was higher at this point with the capital we put into it, but it is what it is.
Brandon, middle hole. How about you?
I think 3 is a good answer because, much like Clinton said, it's there's the question mark around Abe. And I want to make sure and recognize our Ryan 911 coming in with a $9.99 super chat. Go Hawks! Sign everyone. Go Hawks, Ryan.
Thank you, dude.
It. What do you got for our tackles? How do you feel about them? What do you see in the cupboard, Adam, there with the tackles?
Oh, I see a solid 4. And look, you thinking about Abe Lucas and the knee. It's certainly concerning. There's no doubt about it. But with that said, is it like Jesse Williams' knee? Like that kind of old knee? Or is it like, the kind of knee that they go in and they do doctor things, and then in this day and age of NFL football, guys seem to recover and do very well at? I think that is probably the case for Lucas. I do think Cross is still a very good right tackle or left tackle. And as far as Stone goes, like, he came in and he did backup things and was a capable backup.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is find one more dude in the draft to be a capable backup, and you've got a pretty solid room. I'd say that's at least a 4.
I like it. I think I agree. It's right in there. 3.333 looks pretty good to me. Brandon, we got to give you a chance to go first. Interior O-line. I know you've been talking to some folks about what's available there. We'll get to that soon. We got Oluwatimi for 3 years. Anthony Bradford for 3. Curtis McClendon is exclusive rights free agent. And that's,
everybody knows Curtis.
Let me check. That's it. How do you feel?
It's a good show.
This is pretty tough because it's you have a center who didn't play a whole lot last year, and Oluwatimi, I think there's high hopes for him. Anthony Bradford, who did start, but also not at a high level. And you're losing Phil Haynes. You're losing your Damian Lewis potentially. I mean, I'd like to see him re-signed, but we just saw the contract from the Rams gave their guard. And I think if we were to go that high, it probably wouldn't be very exciting for most Seahawks fans. But
what was that?
Brandon, that box is empty.
Know.
That box of Lewis cereal is currently out.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the cupboard right now.
I understand. I'm saying I'm looking into the cupboard and I'm not seeing Lewis anymore. I'm not seeing.
And he's got a trip to the grocery store planned to go get himself some Dame Lou.
Uh-huh. I do have that trip planned. So yeah, it's for me, this would be a 2 probably, because they do have a lot of work, especially when you compare to the rest of the team. And I will have an answer for you shortly, Clinton.
Okay. Adam, what do you feel about our interior O-line?
This has to be a 1 at this point, like where it stands now. And that's not an indictment of how I feel about Olu. I think he can be a very nice center. When he came in, he did his job and there wasn't a big hiccup in the offense. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And Mike's going to know him a little bit too from the Michigan days as well. So we'll see how comfortable he feels with Olu there and with and how Grubb feels about it. But yeah, otherwise, man, if I'm doing my prepper thing and like I'm looking in the cupboard, I'm like, these are rice and beans, the interior linemen, right? Like these are the staples. These are the things that you have to have. And we don't have any of them. We're going to starve in a hurry.
See, obviously Clinton is not as high on Curtis McClendon as I am.
Okay. What's right. Clinton's score? I haven't heard yet. Did he say?
Yeah. No, not yet. So I was going to say, we got New Gosh on YouTube here. And I was a little bit arguing with New Gosh last time we went live because he said that we could not We would not get a second rounder if we trade down the first round. And I took offense to that. However, Nugash is back. I appreciate that. I'm also with him. I think it's a 1. Bradford, big time mauler, good, pretty good in the run game. There was the like feet problems and just sometimes he's a rookie, but sometimes it was like, whoa, this turnstile thing's happening with him. I don't know if he's going to mesh with the grub offense. And is that the type of guard they want? Can he get out in space and move? There is no D-Lou. Olu's the center. Brown's not there right now. I don't know. To me, that just feels like a whole lot of unknowns. And I mean, that's a 1. So pretty bad. like I said,
to argue with. We didn't get any zeros at least, but we got a 1.3 average.
just wait.
How about this exciting one now, Adam? Here we go.
Well, before we get there, I will say that it was Kevin Dotson for the Rams. He signed a 3-year, $48 million deal. So 16 APY and he was the best interior offensive lineman on the market. So I think we found the ceiling of the market with the contract of Dotson, or at least I think what it should be. And
it's right between Uchenna Nwosu and Draymond Jones contract. That's what the ceiling is.
This guy Dotson's good, right? 27 years old, good player on the Rams. So
he thrived this past year. Like his previous years, I don't know how great he was, but he did thrive this last year for the Rams, and with kind of a change in scheme to their offensive line. So,
but with those numbers, I would have taken Dodson over what we got from Draymond last year. So I can't say that I hate it. I don't know. But you guys,
it's just if you were to ask me, would I rather sign Damian Lewis at a lower value salary than Dotson, or get him and then bring in Dotson? I feel like the difference in talent probably I'd rather spend that difference somewhere else. But
so here's a good call from Gornish. Olu is going to take a big step forward this year, but still the IOL is 1.5 to 2. Yeah, so Bradford's meh and Olu projecting forward gets us to 1.3. And how about this position group, Adam? Tight end, where we have Tyler Mabry for a year and Brady Russell, an exclusive rights free agent, and that's all we have at the position. So what are you going to give it 0 to 5 in the cupboard, Adam?
What position group? Like it doesn't exist.
It's run and shoot.
Yeah, exactly. This is obviously as bare bones as it gets. This is 0 at this point in time.
Yeah.
And then also I'm going to give it a 0 out of spite because they got rid of Will Dissly, and that makes me sad. So that's where I'm at there.
And what do you got on this one, Brandon?
I'm going to give it a 1 because I think Bobo could play tight end in a pinch.
Okay, so we get a 1. And how about you, Clinton, for tight ends?
It's not the worst answer. I think he's better than what we have on the roster. In tight ends, it's a 0. We don't have tight ends really, and the tight end market is not that good either. It's littered with a bunch of okay dudes. I'd be so happy if Dissly were to re-sign. If he could make his way back $4 to $5 million for a year or two, whatever per year, wow, would that be a good deal? We forget Dissly's only 27, 2 major injuries, but it's 27 going on 28. These other names, dudes, we might go over it later, but they're not great. It's a bunch of meh, across the board.
So you said a 1?
No, I said a 0.
Oh, good, because you said a 1 and we had the mark of the beast number, so at least we got a 0. Now we're down to 0.3333. You saved us.
We always round up anyway to 667. That's what you do in math.
That would have been just fine then, but mine didn't. It just, spreadsheet fun. Clinton, how about you go? Let's see, Clinton. Clinton. Let's have you go first. Quarterback, we have 1. Geno Smith signed for 2 years. How do you feel about the position?
That's a 4. Easy, slam dunk. It's a 4. We'll get it back up. Just like any other NFL team, besides maybe 2. I don't know, and I'm not even thinking of any specifically. That just feels right. If your starter goes down, you're pretty much screwed. So, and then in the pantheon of starters, he's 20%. He's the upper echelon, 4 to 4.5. Geno's an easy 4. Yeah, good. We're really solid in that position. Specifically what we pay for that kind of level of play. We're in a good spot.
I love it. Brandon, how about you? How do you feel about our quarterback position group?
I can see how Clinton got to the 4 because depending on how you're grading things, 5, we don't need to address it really. If you're going based on talent, I might be more at a 3 because I think there is that room for improvement. So I will stick with Clinton and go with a 4.
I thought you were going to say because of age and just two years of contract. I didn't know you were going to
2
give
years
Gino
of contract's fine, and
I didn't know you're going to give Gino a
33.
talent score of a 3.
I know. Boo.
And he's
Boo.
5.
Okay. Adam froze. His screen froze when you said that, and his blue eyes just popped. What do you got on the score?
That hurt my heart to hear. A talent level of a 3. Get out of here, my man. This is a 4 all day. Good. Clinton's right on with this, and it looks like probably I froze here, so that's extra.
No, you're fine.
No,
You're
Oh,
good.
okay,
You're
good.
It
All
was
right,
just
everybody else
Brandon
froze. See, I
shocked
always
you.
assume it's me. So I assume it's me. But the idea being that Gino is a damn good starter. He is an above average starter by a good ton. And get him in this new system. We'll see what Grubb gets done. I like it. This goes to a 7 on a scale out of 5 if they bring back Drew Lock and they draft a kid early, either at 16 or trade down just a little bit and grab a guy there. Yeah.
Love it. We got a good whole number the first time. Everybody agrees we're at 4 at quarterback. Brandon is first on running back. Kenneth Walker, the 3rd, 2 years. There's the 2. Zach Charbonnet, 3 years. Kenny Mack, 3 years. And Brian Koback is on the roster. How do you feel about this running back room, Brandon?
Yeah, I would put this same as the wide receiver group. I'd put it at a 5 because it's an area where going into free agency, you don't really need to address it. Going into the draft, you're fine if you don't address it. Maybe you get somebody to compete with Koback and McIntosh, but by picking second rounders the last couple of years at running back, you're good. You're in good shape.
Love it. How do you feel about our running back cupboard, Clinton?
I think it's a 5. I think it's, to me, talent wise, maybe it's the 4.5 in general overall. But if I'm going to give Gino as an above average QB by himself a 4, then this is a pretty good room. And I am bullish on seeing McIntosh this year. We kind of got teased. He'll be back. He's dressing. He's going to get some touches. I don't think he touched the ball once last year. That was a choice, right? So I think it's an optimistic 5. Let's put it that way, but it's definitely solid. And they're young and they're under year 1 contracts, getting touches now. Those are all good things.
I like him. It feels like the cupboard's full, at least. For sure, we got some good Kirkland and Safeway. I don't know if we have like all top stakes in there. I like some of the abilities, but yeah, it's full. What were you going to say about this group, Adam? You got a full 5 on it.
Well, first, there was a question about my taste in 80s music. That's a 0.5 on the scale, and I think that's indisputable. But as far as the running back goes, I mean, that's a dead solid 5. I mean, K9 is one of those guys that couldn't easily be a top 2-3 running back in the league.
Yeah.
Sharps is a solid backup. Yeah. And then the Kenny Mack upside seems pretty large, especially what we saw early from him before his injury, like at the mock game and things like that. So this is a 5, no doubt.
Love it. Okay, so we got a solid 5 on the running back room.
And 0.5 on 80 music.
Yeah. Okay. So that would round it down if we were going to have 80s music within the running back room, but hopefully that's not what they're dancing to. How about we go to the other side of the ball, gentlemen? And we'll just, because I'm confused on who should be up next, I think I'll start with Adam because he's the first letter of our ABCs. We go to defensive line where I'm including Draymond Jones. He has 2 years. Jaron Reed has 1. Mike Morris has 3. And Cam Young have 3. Then we have Miles Adams. He's an exclusive rights free agent. We expect that we'll,
usually keep those guys.
We should get him pinned. How do you feel about this cupboard and this position group for D-line, Adam?
Yeah, so I think this is probably the group that we're going to have the most variation on. I'd say as it stands now, this is a 5, and that's anchored by Jared Reed. Like, he had a very nice season, and I think he's playing at almost peak Jared Reed levels and going through last year. Now, Draymond coming over with that contract, I'm going to say it, that was disappointment. Like, he was just another dude out there. Mario Edwards played every bit as good as Draymond Jones at position. And we're talking about the number here. And then Cam Young, he came in and he was a guy at times. And we all love Miles Adams, and he's a nice situational guy. But the real problem here is there is no depth. Like, you need at least shoot 4 more than what we have here. And this instantly goes to a 7 the second they re-sign Leo. That's the way I feel.
So Adam, it's 0 to 5, right? And you're giving it a 5, but it could go to 7.
Oh, I keep trying to put it on a 10 because 0 to 5 didn't make any sense to me. 0 to 10 makes all the sense.
Yeah, Phil thinking.
All right, so what's dead average? What's dead average in our little scale here?
2.5. So you got to go one side of the.
Or 3. Yeah.
You can go 3.
I'll go 2 then.
2. Okay. 2 is pretty close. Okay, so I thought the way you were
From a
talking about
5,
it, I was
yeah,
like,
from a 5
it
to
doesn't
a
feel
2.
like a 5.
Yeah.
A 5 feels like we love our nose tackle. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I screwed that up.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad I checked because, yeah, the reasoning matches the 2 or 3 a little bit better for me. Brandon, what's your score for the D line here?
Yeah, because and this is interior D line based on 3-4. So if you're talking about adding a lot of guys, I don't know if you're going to add a whole lot of additional players. It seems like you go to the cupboard and you have all these interior defensive line guys, but you don't know if you could easily upgrade at any of the positions. And obviously Leo Williams would be a huge upgrade here. Just based on the sheer number, in free agency, you're probably not going to do much better adding to this group because, you tried that with Draymond Jones last year, and I just don't see you spending, again, apart from Leonard Williams.
There's dudes.
I have a hard time. I'll just go middle of the road 3.
3. Okay, so we got a 3 from Brandon. That makes some sense. Yeah, I understand your point. Somebody's going to have to get bumped out because some of these guys are kind of mispositioned. But if they don't go on the D line, they don't really have a position on this team either in a 3-4. So it's a little bit tricky how that's going to work out. I'm not sure what Mike and John are going to do about it. That's for a later time because Clinton is up. How do you feel about the cupboard of our interior defensive line?
Not great. Got to be honest. I think it's a solid 2, and I mean that sincerely.
Closer to a 3 than a 1, but still closer to a 2 than a 3.
Right, 2.3.
Sounds like you're talking yourself into a chick that's a little less attractive at the end of the night after about 7 beers. You're like, well, she's a solid 2.
Miles Adams bump.
Yeah.
You can't go below a 2 when Clinton has the Miles Adams on the roster still.
The Hives. Yeah, it's a 2 though. And the big thing is I'm looking at that going, hey, right now the swing player might be like Mike Morris. Like, oh, if he does what he looks like he is possibly capable of, certainly his size, his athleticism, his pedigree coming from Michigan, cool. But that's as to rob a sentence from Adam, that's a phrase. It's a big time hard telling, not knowing, right? The thing is, Brandon, there are a lot of defensive linemen, I think, that are available on the market that are pretty good. That range from that are going to be quite expensive. The Leo Williams being one, DJ Reader, but all the way down to like dudes like Sebastian Joseph Day's back out there, like just
Mario
will be there. Grover Stewart. There's a lot of talent on that you could go get one of them. So, but either way, that's not the assignment right now. The assignment is, current state.
Check the cupboard.
That's a 2 right now, dudes.
Okay.
It's a big problem because that is not nearly good enough.
So 2.3 average. So now that Adam has adjusted his rating down, he thought there'd be a big
I'm still
variance.
Gonna struggle.
There wasn't a ton of variance. Yes. So I originally had a different system I was going to do, and then I was like, I'd like to see real number averages. So I went to 0 to 5. Maybe I should have gone 1 to 10 just so it would have made sense to Adam and his lady
Adam
rating.
will need it
It's
to go to
just
10.
the way I prepped. It's the way that I prepped. And so I already had numbers in mind because I actually did work before the show. And so now I'm adjusting on the fly. Apparently my mental pliability is low.
It's poor communicating by the Phil, and I take full.
That was really poor communication, Phil, when you put 0 to 5,
0 to 5
right on the top.
The top right, yeah, it's right there.
Well, it's a me problem. It's a me problem. Let's not get it twisted. Yeah.
Now I'm red. Okay.
So when Adam said 80s music was a 0.5, is that really more like? Is it really a lot higher?
That's a 0.2 then, actually.
Yeah, it'd be actually a lot lower. Like if we stretch the scale out to 10. Yeah.
Put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Got it. All right.
Yeah. Some of that new wave stuff brings it right down very quickly. Clinton, how about Outside linebacker, edge player in the 3-4, the wide nines, those guys. We got Daryl Taylor. He's a restricted free agent. Don't know if we'll get him back or not, but he's available that way. Uchenna, we have for 2 years. Boye for 2. Derek Hall for 3. And Levi Bell is another one that's kind of kicking around the roster. How do you feel about this particular group, 0 to 5?
Yeah, slightly better. It's Nuosu's got to bounce back. It's an injury you should be able to come back from, right? It was bicep, right? Towards bicep. Should be okay. I'll put it dead smack and say it's a 3. There's not a lot of depth there. It's a place where you need depth. And we don't know what we got with Hall yet at all. We didn't see, it wasn't like we saw nothing. That he's got good traits. Size-wise, speed-wise, could be good. It maybe takes that second year leap into a third year and really grows into a fine football player. But he certainly didn't jump off the page and do too much as a rookie. We got to be honest about that. So it's a 3. And just for the record, 80s music is absolutely awesome. So thank you.
Brandon, 80s music and outside linebacker. How do you rate them?
Yeah, 80s music, I give it a 7 on the 0 to 5 scale, and then I'll give this group a 7 on Adam's scale.
I'm so confused now.
I'm right about a 3.5, and I would be at a 4 if I knew Uchenna coming back would be completely healthy. And I just have that question because, again, I see solid starters on either side with Nwosu and Mafe, and then you have capable backups with Hall. Well, I mean, that still remains to be seen a little bit, but
with Taylor, maybe.
If Taylor comes back and he's a backup and we just see him situationally in pass rushing situations, I could see myself being okay with that. Derek Hall, young and upcoming, I could talk myself into a 4.
Okay. So it barely reaches a 4. It was like a 3.51 and you had to go one direction. So that's what we got. Adam, how do you feel about this edge group?
I vacillated between a 3 and a 4. And the thing that pushed me over to a 4 is the idea that I believe in Coach Mike McDonald. Like the idea that they decided to bring in a new coach out of all the coaches, this is the dude I was most fired up for, and a guy who can really develop players. And, Chenna coming back again, like Clinton pointed out, that's not like a lower body issue, something that's probably fairly easy. I mean, not that it's going to be easy for him, but relatively easy to come back from. And then I think Boye Mafe is just scratching the surface. And I think Mike is going to unleash this boy. Like it's going to get crazy. So I really love our 2 starters. And then you look at Derek Hall and you go, yeah, he does have all the measurables. Didn't play great last year, but a little bit like Boye made a massive jump from year 1 to year 2. I really think Mike can get that out of Derek Hall. So I think you have one fantastic backup at that point. They do not bring back Daryl Taylor because why? I couldn't understand that for the life of me. And they're just one dude away from having a really, really, really good group. So I'm going to go with a 4.
I think the secret of using Daryl Taylor is you put him on the field, and then all the safeties and corners can leak over there because that's where the team's going to run the ball. So
that's why situationally, if you're just using him on passing situations only, I think he could be fine.
Where he can be like below average.
I mean,
he gets pressure. He gets strip sacks when he gets home.
Garbage time. Garbage time is when he gets those
or sometimes the fourth quarter shut a game down. Like I don't know. I push back on that.
Under the restricted free agent number, it's not a high number anyway. It's
right. Yeah.
That's a huge no thank you to me.
He could blossom just in the same way you believe in Mike. I mean, maybe so.
Oh, I know. Taylor. I believe in Mike being able to take talent and making talent great. Yeah. See, that's the problem with Daryl Taylor. Like, I don't think he has the talent.
I still want to move him to inside linebacker.
Oh, yeah. That's an idea.
It is an idea. We don't have a lot of them.
It'd be the best option we have right now.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a great segue, Phil.
Thanks a lot. We are going to inside linebacker. Adam has me stoked about the edge players. I'm feeling a lot better. Like that, we got pretty decent material in there, and Clinton is like a superstar with the fans in the chat right now. Apparently, people are loving him for takes he has. But before I don't know. I don't know where that even came from. Brandon, we're going to do inside linebacker. We got Rad again. He's a restricted free agent. We have Nick Ballore for a year. And then Joshua Onugiogu.
Mm-hmm.
We have him too.
Yeah.
So those are the guys that we have,
Future
Brandon.
Hall of
How do you
Famer.
feel about the cupboard for inside linebacker?
Well, Jake Bobo could probably play inside linebacker in a
There we
pinch.
go again. Bobo everywhere.
So in that case, I'll give it a 1.
Okay, you found a way to give it a 1, I see. Okay. That was a lengthy discussion. Now let's get to everybody's favorite 80s fan, Clinton. How are you feeling about our inside linebackers?
Oh, well, karma chameleon over here, man. Not great. It comes and goes. It's got to be a 0. We don't have any. It's there's no cupboard. It's not there. And
the cupboard is there. There's the little dead
right,
fly
the cupboard
laying in
there. The
corner.
cupboard's there, right?
Couple crumbles.
Right. The containers that should be stocking it's empty. And unlike tight end, not a very deep draft class. There's some talent at linebacker, but it's not that deep. So that's a place where earlier you're like, hey, are you okay with some of these being go into the draft without making them? No, not linebacker, but also linebacker is a place where you can typically spend sometimes $4 to $7 million or less and fill it up with dudes who can play. And again, Adam, your point, McDonald, look at the smattering of players he put together the last couple of years and the Ravens, and he got them to a really high level. Everybody points to Benoit and that's folks like that. There's dudes out there, man. There are dudes that are on the free agent market right now that are just good football players who are still fast, either still in their prime or on the edge of it, and play roles well. Some dudes are good cover guys. Some dudes are really good run stuffers. Yeah. We can fix this one pretty easily before the draft. If we go into the draft with the cupboard still empty, bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is
Adam.
Martin still out there?
Long answer.
I mean,
I got a guess on your answer.
Be better than what we got.
I got a guess on Adam's answer. It's 1 of 2, and I can't imagine to be anything other than 1 of 2 choices. But let's go ahead and hear it. Make your case. How's the cupboard look on linebackers, Adam?
Oh, this is a solid 1. This is a solid 1, and it's all because Nick Ballore is so freaking hilarious. He could be out on the field and make a running back just fall down in the hole just by telling him a joke. Like that's the best that we got going on here at inside linebacker. Radigan's a nice special teams player, and I like his story and all that, but a lot of work to be done here.
So 2 special teams players gets us to a 1, and our average at 0.66666667.
Onuji, I can't even say his name now. He can play special team, or he's a special teamer too.
Yeah, 3 special teamers. So there we go. We got
Great.
2 position groups left. I think we start with Adam here. We go to corner, Reek Woolen for 2 years. Mike Jackson, he's a restricted free agent. Trey Brown has a year left. Lance Boykin's there. Devin Witherspoon has 3. He definitely has 4 if we want to use that 5th option, which I'm sure we would.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Whitaker is there as well. How do you feel about our corner room, Adam?
All right, Spoon's a star, and it's easy to see. Trey Brown, I think, has really proven himself over the years to be a legit NFL starter. Mike Jackson, a borderline 1 who can, back up and be, a guy that can come in and do some things. It's the Reek Woolen part that I think is the most interesting. Of all the moves that are going to happen in this offseason, this is the one that intrigues me the most. Does a non-physical guy like Reek Woolen fit in a Mike McDonald scheme?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know that any of us know. But the thing is like, if it were me and I'm Coach Mike coming in, I'm trading him. Like that play on the goal line where he just sat and like jumped around the outside of the, ball of players moving towards the goal line just to protect his shins or whatever it was that he was doing in his poor tackling. I trade him, man. I just don't think you can win with that guy long term. So I'm going to say this is a 4. It would have been a 5 if Reek could find the physicality to match some of his speed and coverage skills.
How about you, Brandon?
I'm going to go with Gorner Slick in the chat. The cornerback group is a 5, and much like how Adam gave a little bit of an upgrade to the defensive line, just based on bringing in Mike McDonald, I will say that physicality won't so much be an issue with Mike McDonald coming on board and the new coaching staff. And so I think they give Reek a little push, and we see an upgrade, and that makes us a really solid cornerback group.
Brandon keeping his streak alive, yet to be the lowest score giver in any group by himself. So we like the positive. Oh, I guess we have Gino. Oh no, he did come up to everybody else on Gino. Gino was the closest one to where you were going to be Mr. Negative, but it hasn't happened yet. I like the 5 for cornerback room. I could be a believer. Clinton, how do you feel about the corners?
Not quite a 5. I'm on the Adam train for this one in the 4. Reek is one of the main reasons. I think the other piece is just that other corner, the opposite. And if Spoon's in the slot or outside, whatever, he's still corner 1, regardless of where he's in the field. The second corner has been really fluid for the Seahawks. Like, it's Mike Jack 1 year, it's Trey Brown, and that it's Reek. They look good, and then they just kind of fade away, right? And or they're not quite as good. And another dude jumps him and takes the one spot away, the other starting position away. So it's difficult for me to pinpoint, will Trey Brown be that dude this year for sure? And I like Trey Brown. I was tooting his horn all offseason last year, being like, this guy's undervalued. He should be starting. And I think he's still a really good cover corner. All these things said, it's a 4. It can easily pitch to a 5. This is like, 4.2, 4.3 creeping. Reek is the keystone here. Adam had it.
And that's where we came out, 4.3 on that one. We got one left. We'll send this one to Clinton. Safety. We have Kobe Bryant for 2 years, Julian Love for a year, Jarek Reed the second for 3 years, and Jonathan Sutherland. How you feeling safety? Safety first, safety last this time. Clinton, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Just the beautiful 1980s song, Men Without Hats, Men with Hats, Men Without Hats. Either way, the safety dance. You can dance if you want to. And I'm going to give it a 3, boys. I think this because I'll tell you why. I think Julian Love with expanded opportunity will step into that role. I think he's a good football player. He's a leader. He was a captain before on the Giants. So I expect him to step up and step into a larger role. And I like Reed. I know he didn't get a lot of playing time last year, but I like what I saw in the preseason. I liked his aggressiveness on special teams. The dude can tackle. He's quick. I think he's super from a safety perspective. I think he comes up and he will dare to make the hits. Unlike we talked about Kobe Bryant, who allows everything in front of him and is just a little bit too soft, whether that was corner, slot, safety. Reed's not like that. Reed will stick his head in there and take the chances. So I'm a 3 overall. The main piece of that is Julian Love steps up and really becomes kind of like one of our favorite players this year from a fandom perspective.
Clinton's feeling pretty good about Reed's ACL. I hope he's right. Adam, how you feeling about the safety room, the cupboard? 0 to 5, one more time.
Okay, so I open up the cupboard, my little prepper mindset, and I'm like, all right, what do we got? What do we got? And we got one really nice asset and then a bunch of stuff that doesn't work. And that's Julian Love. Like, we get a 2 here by me only because of Julian Love and being an above average starter and a good player. Kobe Bryant, he ain't it for me. I've been saying it since he was drafted. I think the play on the field reflects that. Jarek Reed, like, I hear a lot of people fired up about Jarek Reed, and that's cool. I like his mindset. I like what he did on special teams. But for me to be like, what was he, a 6th-round pick? A 6th-round pick is going to come in and be that next starting safety, and we've seen enough of him to know that he's good or could be good. I haven't seen squat out of Jarek Reed when it comes to playing safety. So no credit there. And Jonathan Sutherland, just a dude in my opinion, but other people feel differently about it. We saw the comment earlier that Sutherland would be a beast from one of the commenters. But for me, this is a 2.
Adam opens up his CD case and he finds, some old country, just one CD though, and then a bunch of 80 CDs, and he says, this is a 2.
I'm playing that Clint Black CD all day, every day.
Like some old Hank or something. That would.
Oh, Hank. Oh yeah, you want to go Hank? You bet.
Okay. All right.
Phil, before we go on, I got to make sure that Nugash just understands that quickly becoming my most favorite and most hated commenter out there, and I love it because it stirs the pot. So keep doing it. But 2 good games for Julian Love. I mean, Julian Love had basically 2 bad games beginning of the year, just soft games, the first two games of the year. He was one of the best rated safeties in the league, the rest of the season.
Like 4 awesome games.
And he was highly rated rest of the year too. He had a very good season. So just gonna throw that back at Nugash and say, look, sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. And this time, well.
See, Nugash agreed with Adam on his rating. Didn't agree with Clinton on Love. He probably hates 80s music too, I'm guessing. It's seeming to be like
he has any taste, beyond what's just in his mouth. Yeah.
Brandon, we've been waiting for this final rating. Where are you at on safety covered?
I like Love, but I don't love. So when I look at this group, Adam gave him a 2. You're banging on me for being Mr. Positivity, so I guess I'll go 1.5 because apart from linebacker, this is the group that I like the least on the defensive side, and I think you could easily upgrade every spot on the team, whether it's in free agency with signings. I could see them going into the season with Love, though, being the starter. And so it's going to have to be addressed. But it's not like some of these other position groups like linebacker where you have a guy who's about to become a free agent that you can go ahead and sign. And I see we got a super chat here from the Snail, $5. Don't worry about safety. We are drafting future Hall of Fame safety Jaden Hicks from Pac-12 champion, Pac-2. Maybe that's more accurate. Pac-2 champion WSU Cougars. Suck it,
That's
puppies.
cold. Yeah, that's cold.
Go
Okay.
Cougs.
So did you do a 1 or a 2, Brandon? What'd you pick?
1.5.
So I've been knowing this man.
Put me down for a 1 if I have to do a solid number.
I've been knowing this man since kindergarten. This is the first time I've ever seen him give in to peer pressure. Phil being like, you were Mr. Positivity on everything. And finally, Brandon went negative just to prove him wrong. That was fun.
That got his buttons. That really pushed him over.
See, unlike Russell Wilson, who when Brandon Marshall pressured him to go low, Russ couldn't do it. I can. Suck it, Russ.
No Michelle Obama route for Brandon. He goes lower. He's gonna okay. So I got questions now, and I'm curious about. I don't know, Clinton. How long do you have to stay with us? You got to.
I could do 10 more. Yeah, 10 more. Yeah, a little longer. Kids I'm on the East Coast, as the most know. So kids are going to bed, and my house is not too big.
That's just fine, because I just have a couple, but there might be some questions there with the super chat or people there in the comments. I had a couple questions as we've come in on our ratings. Our lowest group, of course, is tight end, and right after that, inside linebacker. And you guys kind of got an idea overall of how the scoring went down. I thought about bringing it up on the screen, but I think we know where we're at. You can always ask me for referral. But let's start with Adam. Is there a group that you especially wants us to deal with here next week in free agency the most? Kind of like this group, we need to get the holes filled. Maybe it's our own players, maybe it's outside, but we got to get something in the cover before the draft. Give me your top couple, Adam.
Top 1 would be linebackers, and for all the reasons that Clinton laid out earlier about the free agency group being kind of a little thin, and also the draft group being a little thin. Not that there aren't dudes there, there's just not a ton of dudes. And so that would definitely be one. And then the other would be tight end. And going back to Clinton again. So I'm stealing all your answers, Clinton, because he gave it to me first. But there aren't a ton of dudes out there. And I really think that bringing back Will Dissly would make me feel a lot better about life.
Would you like Colby back, though?
Sure.
But you're more interested
Upper register, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Brandon? What 2 do you feel like we really need to address here in free agency prior to the draft? Or do you even care?
Yeah, prior to the draft, I guess I would go offensive line and linebacker, just because I think you want to deal with the positions closest to the ball. And like you're saying with the draft, there's nobody who can really do it all. And I think that linebacker is a place that even if you don't bring back Brooks, you can find guys that play well enough, or well-rounded enough that you can get enough out of them going into the year.
So linebacker and you said interior line.
Interior O-line.
Okay. And then how about you, Clinton? Your top two, you want to see them addressed in free agency before draft.
Well, Amy is usually right, and here she is right
Yeah.
there, spot on, Amy Holmes. So the first one on the board for me is linebacker. There's like 4 or 5 that I'd be pretty darn ecstatic with. I've said previously that I was very unenamored with Bobby Wagner's speed in the last year and a half or 2 years as a Seahawk. Is what it is. He's still a good run stuffer, but his speed was a problem. The opposite, and I brought this dude's name up throughout the year, coming from the Bucks, Levante David, a guy who gets like a little bit less love than Bobby.
And he's older.
Just has been around just as long. Watch that dude play. His play speed is he's still fast and he's big and he knows how to play football. Like I love a veteran presence in there that still had speed like him. Then there's just dudes, man. There's, Aziz Al-Shir. There's Drew Tranquil, who we like a lot. Willie Gay from the Chiefs. There are some dudes in there that you could all around good backers you could put in and probably get that Mike McDonald lift we're all talking about. So that's number one for me is go get one of those dudes. I'll have to go to D-line because the interior offensive line in the draft is pretty strong. There's a good amount of depth there. So let's go fish in there. But man, like bringing back Leo or someone like that, spend that money. DJ Reader, like I mentioned earlier, it was Matabuke, right? Justin from the Ravens. He's going to cost an arm.
He got tagged.
Oh, well, there you go. It deserves to be Grover Stewart. There's some dudes there, but we got a kind of a bird in hand with Leo. Keep him in Seattle, pay the man his money, lock him up, give him the $20 million a year, the 3 or 4 year, $60 to $80 million deal, get that dude locked up. I don't want to chance that. Like, I feel like you could chance a little bit more of that with the draft depth of offensive line. I don't want to chance that with a dude who might come in and just be just ineffective year one and take a year and a half, 2 years to be an effective NFL player. We're going to stink if that's the case. We got to lock that up.
And before we get to Eaglet's question, how would you like it if we kept Bobby like as the insurance dude, like coming off the bench for cheap or only playing, running downs? Would you be interested in that or not really?
I don't know if Bobby's going to be interested.
Yeah,
in
he
that.
ain't doing that.
You think he wants to start? He still wants to get paid big and start? You think he could? Do you think he will somewhere?
I think he can still get paid, to the level that he got paid last year. Yeah.
Does anyone have Eaglet Snupper's answer? Who's even available at IOL and free agency, though? The guy from the Bills?
When I said earlier about Kevin Dotson being the ceiling, I forgot to mention Robert Hunt, who's a free agent for the Dolphins, and I think he actually may eclipse then that Dotson contract. And the reason why is that once you get past those two in free agency, it gets pretty slim. Kevin Zeitler, who is fine, he would be good. It's just that he's 34 years old, and so I guess for interior O-line he could probably play another few years, which is fine. Be coming from the Ravens, which I could see that making some sense. But the other guys like Dalton Risner, who played for the Vikings last year, I'd rather have Damian Lewis. Ezra Cleveland, who played for the Jags last year. And I think he was injured for part of last year too. So
I think he got beat out by I forget who, somebody else kind of trumped him last year too, right? Got beat out. So I like Jonah Jackson a bit, from Detroit. Pretty big dude. He's only 27. I think he's because we got to see a lot of Detroit this year. They were just on TV a lot. And they were an exciting team to watch. So I thought Jonah Jackson moves well.
But again, I think you're probably paying as much for Jonah Jackson as you are Damian Lewis. So why wouldn't you just keep the dude that has been a relatively consistent player within your own organization? And the guy versus, I don't know if we have any former Lions coaches now, but I would rather keep Damian Lewis.
And Damian is pretty reliable and available, those two ables that we kind of like. But was he a big difference maker? I don't know. The other half of Eaglet's question was about safety. There's a lot of those available. Are you guys interested in dipping the toe in, Adam? The safety free
I
agent
mean,
market?
yes, mainly
Okay.
because we don't have anybody besides Jordan Love. Like, yeah, I'd be interested.
Yeah.
Some of those safeties could maybe play linebacker
There you go.
in a pinch.
Bring them down to the box. Sure. Who are some of the safeties? I didn't have them up. I kind of got through.
Well, Eagle mentioned Simmons. Obviously, there's
All right, Brandon. I
Geno
think it's just
Stone.
me and you. I think we lost Phil and Clinton there. There we go.
I'm
I'm
on. I
here.
thought
No,
I'm not
it's just
here?
you.
Just me.
Yep,
I feel like
See.
I'm on.
you are. I see everybody. It's just Adam's having problems, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At safety spot, you got Antoine Winfield Jr. Oh, he was tagged, right? Or signed. I think he was tagged.
There was a lot of them. Simmons.
But yeah, you got
Geno
Cam
Stone.
Curl, Xavier McKinney, Geno Stone, Julian Blackman, Jordan Fuller, Jordan Whitehead,
Jeremy Chin. There's a bunch. Those are all okay safeties, man. You just name the bunch that are like pretty good.
Darnell Savage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they've been
It's a relatively deep group, which when you see dudes getting cut, yeah, it seems like that's a group that you can probably even address after the draft because there's probably still going to be guys available out there.
yeah, CJ Gardner Johnson, another one. Like these are dudes who could play. Gibson from the 49ers. So there's players there. There's some depth there. I think the funny part is it makes the Diggs cut make that much more sense, right? Like what was he scheduled to make? 20 something million,
Yeah.
right? And now you probably could go bring in a fairly comparable dude under 10, maybe 6 to 7 to 8. I mean and then use whatever 18 million for other stacking the roster differently. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world to me.
Well, we didn't save 20 directly because of all the dead money, but next year we will. So yeah, it can be flexed a little that way. There was quite a bit of dead money on Diggs, but it does, yeah, it kind of makes a little bit of sense when you see all these other teams cutting their big money safeties right now. I was curious what all that was about.
Yeah, the market fell apart, which is funny. We were like, I think we caused like the 2008 housing crisis. I think we caused the crisis in safeties, and then the market crashed on us.
Well, we were the biggest player in that, that ballooning of the safety market. There's no doubt about it. So I guess we should be the ones to pop the balloon. Any other questions coming in there, Brandon?
No, as Jason Turner's saying, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. I think we are like this close to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're listening to this after the fact, hop on over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Maybe you can be subscriber number 4,000, which, maybe you win something, but you probably don't win anything.
Perfect.
Just try, baby.
What an incentive.
Is there anything you guys are looking to happen most next week in this legal tampering period? Not happening. You hope we go through it. I know Brandon kind of wants us to get in the comp game, which means only sign our own players or cut players. Is there anything you really would love to see this happen next week, Adam?
I think the thing that I'm watching the most is just if they bring back Drew Lock or not. I think that does tell you a little bit if they're going to draft a quarterback really early. I still think that there'd be a possibility that they draft a guy later on if they bring back Drew Lock, but I think that's kind of one of those little flags that you can look for.
How about you, Clinton? Something you're hoping for or looking forward to most next week?
Yeah, I want the it's not a free square. It would be an expensive square, but I still want the square, and that's Leo. Just get it wrapped up, make it simple. Like it's a Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific thing. It just happens to float out on Twitter. Adam Schefter reports, and it's just tidy and it doesn't linger too long. That would feel good.
Leo goes out there, he checks the market and goes, yep, they're not offering more than John. I'll go ahead and sign with John. I would love to see that sometime on Tuesday. How about you, Brandon? Anything else besides that?
I'm just looking for information, a lot like Adam said with the quarterback side. I think what they do in those first few days of free agency kind of tell us how they view or how they're going to approach this upcoming season. If they do something like sign Leo, sign Dame Lou, Dame Lou not so much because I feel like he's young enough that if he rides out his contract. But if you see them signing some talented older players, then it tells us that, hey, maybe we're going to go ahead and go for it this year and not look at it more as a rebuilding type year.
Yeah. I mean, we were sad on a few areas. I think the roster is strong enough in in enough areas that we can focus on. With the 40 million and some picks to come, we can focus on those big hole areas. And if it's coached right, I think we can still have a very competitive team. I don't know if Brandon agrees with me or not on that from what I've been hearing, but I mean, interior O-line, hit it with the draft. Inside linebacker, we got to do something in free agency and hope we can find the guy. That's a little tricky. Tight end, there's a couple good possibilities. That's a challenge, but does tight end determine whether your team's successful or not? I'm not so sure. Can the defensive line elevate this year? I think very possibly. And then safety, there's all these free agents. I know I listed a bunch of things, makes it sound like I'm arguing against myself, but I think it's possible if we can identify the right guys and plug it in and coach it well with a good quarterback, we could compete. Do you guys disagree? Do you think I'm crazy, head in the clouds? Am I Mr. Positive?
Sounds like every fan ever went about their team going into the offseason for sure.
I see that. I get that. The coach could be a flop.
The love I'll give you there, Phil, is the ceiling is still legitimate, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, right? They between those wide receivers and that running back core, and we have a very good quarterback. So if you just get the offensive line tweaked the right way and bundle a tight end into that combination, and just get that tweak to the more positive, it can be a very 30+ point a game type offense. And if you do that, you can win a lot of games. And we got the coach that we all trust. We'll get the defense, even with whoever the makeup is. Of course, we don't have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen sitting there, but still, they'll do pretty good. And again, the big news is, guys, news bomb. It's March 7th, right? This is a great exercise to check the cupboard. There's going to be a lot of change this year. And as Brandon, you said, it's going to be really interesting. Which way are they teetering? Is it rip it, go super young, or is it no? We could patch and play with veterans and get to a pretty stable level and do the McDonald thing. That's going to be really cool to watch before we get to April 26th, whatever the draft is.
Yeah, we checked the cupboard. Some say it looks like Swiss cheese in there. Nugash, you had to hit us with that. And speaking of with that, Adam,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.